NASCAR yet again has fans questioning the short track package after a very interesting race at Martinsville where Chase Elliott made his return and Kyle Larson stole the show late and wins his second race of the season and collects his first grandfather clock. Now, let's start with the big debate that was all over Twitter and on everybody's minds after this race at Martinsville and during this race. How is the short track package? We have now seen it 3 times this season at Phoenix, Richmond, and Martinsville. And as I've openly said, after Phoenix and Richmond, Martinsville was the track I wanted to see it run to truly make an opinion. Because Phoenix we've seen twice last year, and I don't think Phoenix itself has changed that much with the short track package. I think Phoenix is the same track it always has been. Richmond has been the same track too. Lots of tire wear, and it's not the easiest to pass, so you have to make moves. Now, Martinsville, now that's been one of the best short tracks, and throughout the whole entire Gen 6 era, it was probably the best short track consistently through the entire Gen 6 era, besides a couple Bristol races towards the end of the Gen 6 era when they really got their short track package down. So Martinsville was the track I really wanted to see. And after seeing this past Sunday's race, I think it's better than what we had last year, but there is still a lot that needs to improve. First, the passing up front was non-existent. I think we only had 4 times this race where we had a pass for the lead under green flag conditions. So that's not great. And there was also just no tire wear. Tire wear was non-existent, especially on a short run. Sure, on a long run, the cars that had fresher tires would get going. But if you were to do a 10-lap shootout, you might as well just stay out and not pit because the tires are more than likely gonna hold up. And that was huge. Ross Chastain used that strategy, almost got him to win stage 2. Heck, Joey Logano almost won off that strategy, but at the end of the day, Larson was able to run him down and get past him. And it just says a lot when the strategy goes out of the window. And another interesting fact I saw on Twitter was that, so before these last 3 races at Martinsville has averaged about 10 to 12 cautions in each of their races. Ever since the Gen 7 car, the next gen car has been introduced, we have not had a Martinsville race with over 6. So that was very interesting. Now for the race itself, Ryan Preece started up front, dominated stage 1. He just ran away and hid. And it was very nice. Stewart-Haas Racing showed a ton of speed this weekend in qualifying and practice. All 4 of their cars qualified in the top 10, ran up front for a good majority of stage 1. And then stage 2, Kevin Harvick won stage 2. Ryan Preece towards the beginning of stage 2 sped off of pit road, lost all track position. Kevin Harvick capitalized. Like I mentioned, Ross Chastain almost took stage 2 off strategy, but Harvick was able to pass him. And Harvick showed a lot of speed in stage 2 and took lead. And then stage 3, continued on. We saw some green flag strategy play out, and it looked like we were going to go green to the end until the tire fell off of Anthony Alfredo's number 78 machine. And it was kind of an embarrassing thing because it was in a spot on the exit of turn 4 where the flagman couldn't really see it that well, and the way the stand is up front, you can't really see it there, so it took NASCAR a couple laps to call the caution there. And all the drivers were like, come on, guys, there's a tire. NASCAR took them a while, so that was kind of upsetting. But nonetheless, on the final pit stop, Kyle Larson, who wasn't running terrible, but he was like a sub-top 10. He was definitely not the best Hendrick car that day. That would go to Alex Bowman, who was by far the best Hendrick car all day. But on the final pit stop, Cliff Daniels went for 2 tires, got Larson track position, and that's all Larson needed to do. All he had to do was go get by Joey Logano, which is exactly what he did. Got by that 22 Verizon machine and was able to drive away for the win, getting his second win in the past 3 races, winning out Richmond, obviously. And this is huge for Larson and Hendrick as a whole. They have shown, like I've said, a lot of speed. It's also their 295th win, so Hendrick's now 5 wins away from 300 wins, so keep that on the counter. But it's big because Kyle Larson specifically has shown so much speed at these short track package racetracks. You might be wondering, why does that matter? Well, it matters saying that the last 2 races of the year, Martinsville and Phoenix, are 2 tracks that we run the short track package on. If Kyle Larson can get to the Final Four, or any Hendrick car gets to the Final Four at that point, right now, they look like the favorites because Hendrick has shown the most consistent speed at these short track package racetracks. They ran phenomenal at Phoenix. Larson and Byron were the class of the field, where Byron won. Richmond, same exact scenario. Larson won the race. Josh Berry finished second. Bowman was in the top 10, and Byron would have finished probably top 5 or competed for the win with Larson. It wasn't the fact that he got spun on one of the final restarts. And then at Martinsville again today, Larson won the race. Chase Elliott in his return finished 10th, which I'll get more into that in a second. Alex Bowman came home 11th and was the best car all day. And really, Byron kind of just fell off, but apparently he dropped a cylinder at one point, and he was just dealing with mechanical issues. That's what cost him. But Hendrick Motorsports, they are terrifying if they can get any of their cars in the Final Four, which they probably will, as they've done it for every single year since 2020, I'm pretty sure, ever since Chase Elliott won his title. So yeah, watch out for Hendrick Motorsports. Now, for some notable finishers in today's race, I will start off with Joey Logano, who had a ton of trouble. He came home to finish second after being towards the back of the field a lot of the day. Martin Truex Jr., after complaining about handling in the car, was able to run his way towards the front and finish third. If you gave Truex about 10, 15 more laps, he might have had a chance to go run down Larson and fight him for the victory. Truex, a much-needed confidence booster, though, for that number 19 team. Chase Briscoe finished 5th. Eric Almirola also finished 6th, so great day for Stewart-Haas Racing when it comes to that. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. finished 8th, and Bubba Wallace finished 9th, collecting a top 10, a good space for Bubba to be at one of his favorite tracks before we go to Talladega, where he's won at before, go to Kansas here in a couple of weeks, where he won last year. Bubba, if he gets his upswing going, especially saying there's some tracks that he really likes coming up, watch out for Bubba to potentially win a race here soon. I'm going to that Kansas race. I was at the Kansas race last year where Bubba won, so I'm going to have to keep an eye for Bubba through Kansas when I'm at the racetrack. And if you guys are going to Kansas as well, let me know, and I will meet up with you guys there because it'd be a lot of fun. And then finally, Chase Elliott in his return. If you didn't hear it already, Chase Elliott was back at the track this week, racing in the number 9, and he collected his 2nd top 10 of the season, and getting a great finish after was not such a great day. And no, it was not because of his leg. The car just never handled right for him. And on the final pit stop, they finally got it correct, and he was able to run through the field and get to 10th. So good job for Chase Elliott and that Hendrick team. Now, my thoughts after this race. NASCAR really needs to nail down the package, especially when short tracks, especially towards the end of the season, saying you end the season on 2 short tracks, are huge parts of the season. It used to be the 1.5 miles that they needed to nail down, and they always struggled with that. Now they get the 1.5 miles figured out with this next gen car, but now they don't have the short tracks figured out, which are now just as important as the 1.5 miles when you got so many of them deciding a championship. So NASCAR's got to get this package figured out to kind of make it possible to make moves. We saw it. It really made a detriment at Phoenix, and it'll be hard to see what happens. I think a big thing would have to be getting rid of shifting, because shifting just makes it easier. Or if you don't want to get rid of shifting because you can't, you got to put more horsepower in this car, and NASCAR's got to figure that out. While I do still think the racing product is better than last year at the short tracks, 100%, I do think it is. But it leaves a lot to be desired, and a lot of work still needs to be done before we can officially say this is a great short track package that we can count on to always put a good product on the track. So, now I want to ask you guys, what are your guys' thoughts on the short track package? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it somewhere in the middle? What can NASCAR improve on? Let me know down in the comments below. And while you're at it, if you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.